Good evening, everyone, and welcome, and thanks for being here. And Jesse was telling me before this, actually, this is a tradition that he instituted when he came to the school, which I did not know. So welcome to the 9th annual State of the School. And look, this is a fairly intimate group, so we can have a real conversation tonight about what's happening at the school, which is terrific. By way of introduction, and I know many of you, but for those of you who I do not know, I'm Jeff Bosconi, and I have the amazing privilege of serving the school and serving all of you as president of the board. I currently have 3 children at the school. I have a 6th grader, I have 2 2nd graders, and I have a 4th son who graduated last year from Greenvale. So having 5 of us, including myself, here last year was a lot for the school to handle. So I'm sure Jesse and the team are very relieved that they're down to 4 of us. But look, as a parent, I've now experienced Greenvale from pre-nursery all the way through 8th grade graduation. And with that experience, I am so proud and happy to share that my wife and I are incredibly grateful to Greenvale for the ways in which it shapes our children and it has shaped our children in the past. What we're going to do tonight is really 3 things. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here up front talking about the board and what we've been working on, what we've been focused on. Then I'm going to turn to Hari, our treasurer, and Hari's going to take you through the financial condition of the school. And then lastly, and most importantly, we're going to spend the most time hearing from Jesse tonight on what's happening inside and out of our classrooms. And we'll leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So please be thinking about questions as we work through these different topics. Look, by the time you leave, our hope is that you will walk away with a holistic picture of what's happening at Greenvale, and you will have a distinct feeling that the state of Greenvale is extremely strong, and your children are receiving an education that is second to none. So let me now touch on our board and what we've been up to in the first half of the year. Our board has 18 members. We are all parents or very recent former parents. We have children across all grades at Greenvale, and we have expertise in a wide variety of areas. So we have expertise in the fields of finance, law, the nonprofit sector. We have expertise in real estate. We have expertise in academia, in academics, including elementary and early childhood education. It's a really professionalized board, and it's a hardworking group. Our role as trustees is to serve as fiduciaries, which means we have to act in the best interest of the school. It's our duty to act in the best interest of the school at all times. Our job is to protect and position Greenvale to thrive now and in the future. We also play an important role with Jesse, and we partner closely with Jesse to set the strategic priorities for the school and provide a level of oversight and governance for all of the core functions at the school. So let me talk a little bit about this year. We kicked off this year with the board offsite. I used the word offsite. It was actually here at Greenvale. So retreat may be a better word. But we spent the full day with Jesse and his leadership team. And our retreat focused on the medium and longer term priorities for the school with a particular focus around our strategic plan. For those of you who may be newer or maybe prospective families of the school, we actually have a few prospective families in the audience tonight, so welcome to you. We're really excited that you're here to learn more about Greenvale. Schools typically formulate strategic plans about every 5 to 7 years. And the goal of a strategic plan is really to set the strategic roadmap for the school over that 5 to 7 year time horizon. We are now at Greenvale in year 2 of our strategic plan. We adopted it during the 2022 school year. Our plan is focused on delivering educational excellence at Greenvale with particular emphasis on teaching and the continued development of our amazing faculty. We want to create the systems and the infrastructure to sustain great teaching at Greenvale. That's our goal. In Jesse's remarks, he's actually going to take you through the main pillars of the plan. He's going to talk about the enhancements that are underway, and he's also going to talk about some of the leadership changes and new roles he's created to drive out the plan. So following our offsite, we've spent the fall and the winter meeting with Jesse's key leadership team members and reviewing all of the key operating areas of the school. And what I'll do now is I'll actually touch on a few of those that I think are important to discuss. First is admissions and enrollment. So enrollment is probably the single biggest factor in determining the long-term success and viability of our school. And I am really happy to report that we are in great shape from an enrollment perspective, thanks to Lynn Dixon, our Director of Admissions, and the work of her team. We have 450 students at Greenvale today. That is across about 290 families. This year we welcomed 74 new students to Greenvale, so about 15% of our student body is actually new to the school this year. We're effectively at full enrollment. So 450 means we are basically full. Again, a great spot to be in. Where do our families come from? They come from a 15-mile radius of the school. That is predominantly where all of our families are from. We're also a big beneficiary of families from New York City moving into the area. This was a trend that, of course, accelerated during the pandemic. Following the pandemic, we had a lot of questions about whether or not, the families that had come here would stay. And good news is they've stayed. So Hari's going to show you a chart in a few minutes, which shows how much money we draw from the endowment each year. And the level of money we take out of the endowment each year depends heavily on what the level of our enrollment is at the school. And you'll see, as we entered 2020, actually the draw from our endowment dropped quite a bit as our enrollment went up, and we've been able to sustain that level of enrollment, which is terrific. I want to now talk a little bit about marketing and communications. So this is an area actually we don't talk very much about, but part of our enrollment story is actually a strong marketing plan. And we have a new director of marketing, Lindsay Hallman, and Lindsay works very closely with Lynn, our director of admissions, to position Greenvale with prospective families. And she does this through a variety of marketing channels. Think about digital, think about print. Like a lot of organizations, we continue to shift money towards social, towards digital, away from print. Also, like a lot of organizations, we track rigorously the performance of all of our content. So we track click-through rates. We track the performance of keywords in search. Lindsay and team are constantly updating our website to ensure that we have the right wording to optimize how we perform from a search perspective. Maybe you've seen some of our print ads. Our print ads now have a QR code on them. And we capture data that way as well about the viewers of those ads. All of this has actually led to a significant uptick in website traffic. Sort of interesting. Our website traffic is actually up 100% year over year. So we've seen a huge lift in visitors to our website. And of course, we track what people are looking at, what they're reading, et cetera. And that drives a lot of what Lindsay creates and posts on our website in terms of features and the blogs and so on. So it's really been a terrific effort by the entire advancement team, Lynn and Lindsay. All of that said, our single largest tool for marketing continues to be word of mouth. So all of us. And so if there's one ask tonight, and we don't have a lot of asks tonight, by the way, but if there's one ask, it's that all of us continue to act as ambassadors for the school. We have a collective interest, all of us in this room, and those of us who are going to watch this a little bit later. We have a collective interest in continuing to build and strengthen our community. And we can all play a huge role in that by being great ambassadors for the school. If you're happy, tell a friend about it, all right? I want to now talk a little bit about our campus. Our campus is one of our greatest assets. This year, during the year, before the year and during the year, we've actually completed 22 capital projects. The main focus of our projects has been actually security. So we've renovated 2 of our security booths at the gates of our campus. The 3rd security booth is actually set to undergo a renovation a little bit later this year. In addition, we installed the new electronic lock system on all of our electronic doors. Our goal is, of course, to create a sense of community, but in a very safe way. And so we continue to invest in campus security. While we invest in the physical aspects of security, our faculty and our security guards actually continue to undergo training. And this summer and this fall, both our faculty and our security guards participated in more extensive security training as well. Finally, the last thing I actually wanted to touch on was a bit of an update around governance and school governance. This is a little bit technical, but I think it's an important thing for everyone to know. We are right now gearing up for our 10-year accreditation from the New York State Association of Independent Schools, or NYSACE. As I said, so this happens once every 10 years. What's going to happen next fall is a group of visitors from NYSACE are going to come on our campus, and they're going to inspect every aspect of how we operate. And so this is a really important evaluation for us as a school. It will determine, in effect, whether or not we have the license to continue to operate as an independent school. So we are, as a board, and along with Jesse's leadership group, led in part by Narinder, really preparing now for that evaluation, and we're going to be ready to go next fall for that. So with that, I've touched on a lot of areas. I'm now going to turn it to Hari, who's going to go through our finance, development, and endowment. Hari.
Thanks, Jeff. Good evening, everyone, and we appreciate your joining us. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Hari Rajan. My wife, Preeti, and I have 2 daughters at Greenvale, one in 1st grade and the other in 5th. I'm in my 4th year as a trustee, and just this past year succeeded Jeff as treasurer, so I have very big shoes to fill. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the school's financial condition and the work that the board and its finance committee are doing with Jesse and Richard Hurd, our director of finance, and the administration broadly, to ensure that we maintain a robust business operation that supports Greenvale's educational and community building mission. I thought I'd begin by quickly reviewing our financial model, and I'll do that by referencing our most recent financial results for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Last year, we generated $19.4 million in revenues. The largest contributor by far, and as you might expect, was tuition and related items, followed by proceeds from the annual fund and special events like the gala, which are very important contributors to our recurring revenue base. On the expense side, our costs were $19.2 million, of which the largest piece were employee salaries, followed by instructional spending, facilities costs, and our financial aid program, which importantly includes tuition remission for our employees. Now, you will note that this past year, this resulted in an operating surplus of about $200,000. Now, that is very unusual and frankly anomalous as a result due to 2 extraordinary one-time revenues sources that we had last year. An employee retention credit that we received from the federal government as a COVID financial relief measure, as well as net revenues from our very enjoyable centennial celebrations. But that only happens once every 100 years. Kind of the definition of non-recurring, right? So in normal years, we consistently run a sizable operating deficit. And if you look at the past 10 years, that's ranged anywhere from $400,000 to over $1 million. So that's more reflective of our structural financial position. And it does require that we draw on our endowment almost every year to plug that hole. So our endowment is about $36 million. And in a typical year, we would target drawing somewhere between 1% and 3%. And so based on our general sense of kind of long-term rates of investment return, we're comfortable with that figure rising up to about 5%. We make the effort to match growth in employee salaries, our biggest cost, with tuition increases, our biggest source of revenues. So what that means is that the main factor, barring something unexpected, that has the potential to push up our draw to that kind of 5% ceiling is a decline in enrollment. Now, as Jeff mentioned, our current enrollment levels are very strong. We've benefited from COVID-related trends, but more importantly, from the value proposition that Greenvale, under Jesse's leadership, has demonstrated in our marketplace. But our model allows for a potential decline in enrollment, and we are generally comfortable that as long as we maintain consistent giving levels to the annual fund and through the gala year after year, our endowment as currently sized functions as a very effective tool to ensure the financial viability of Greenvale under really most foreseeable enrollment scenarios. What our endowment does not do, however, is facilitate any significant new investments in the implementation of the strategic plan that you have heard about and that you will hear more about tonight. In areas that Jesse will discuss, like enhancing professional development programs for our teachers, increasing financial aid outreach and budgeting, that would require significant growth in our endowment, which is something that the board is very focused on and that you will undoubtedly be hearing more about in the coming months. But in the meantime, the Finance Committee is very focused on the sound management of our existing endowment. And to that end, we recently completed a very comprehensive review of our asset management arrangements, which resulted in a change of our asset manager from an incumbent, Goldman Sachs, to a new provider, Common Fund. Some of you may know Common Fund. It's a specialist asset manager that focuses on nonprofit clients, particularly in the educational sector. And we felt that a more specialized provider would not only help us manage the endowment in a more tailored way, but also serve as a useful resource as we think through key business, financial, and operational matters going forward. So we're very pleased to have initiated that relationship. So if there are a few key messages that I will leave you with from this kind of financial component of the discussion, they are: one, our financial condition is fundamentally sound for our current operations. Two, we do appreciate and very much rely on your continued support in annual giving, which is essential to that stability. So when Jeff, you said you have one ask, it's not one ask. We do rely on that. It's a very important, two asks for today.
And counting.
For today. It is a very important component of our financial model. But we are looking at initiatives to grow our endowment, to support some of the more cost-intensive elements of the strategic plan. And as I said, those are items that you will hear more about in the coming months. So with that, I will turn it back to Jeff.
Yep. Thanks, Hari. Look, so what I hope you'll take away from my comments and what Hari just shared is, number one, the sheer amount of work it actually takes to operate this school very effectively. There's a lot that goes into it. We have a wonderful leadership team under Jesse and some of the others here tonight, and it just a tremendous amount of work goes into this. That's point one. The second point is we have incredible strength actually across a lot of these critical areas, and that positions us really well as a school now to continue to invest for our future. So Jesse now is going to talk actually about the most critical area of our operations, and that is teaching and learning. And this is, as I said and Hari mentioned, an area of major investment for us right now as a school community. To tee up Jesse in this session, I thought I would actually share a quote that Narinder shared with us actually at that board retreat at the beginning of the school year. I thought this quote captured really well the spirit of our strategic plan, but also the mindset of our faculty and our leadership team here at the school. So it says, if we create a culture where every teacher believes they need to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be even better, there is no limit to what we can achieve. So we're a great school, but we can be even better. And if our teachers are coming every single day with that mindset, we are so lucky as parents and community members. So with that, Jesse, over to you.
All right, so thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Hari. And hopefully you know I'm Jesse Doherty, the head of school. And I do have 3 kids, 2 who've graduated from Greenville and 1 who is in 7th grade. So got a lot of representation between the 3 of us here. Tonight, I'm going to give you an overview of our progress on the strategic plan, and I'm going to do that through telling you a lot of stories. Okay? My goal is to give you the flavor of the work that's being done and some insight into the tremendous amount of thinking we put into how we educate your kids. Let's start with remembering what this is all about. Both Jeff and Hari have already mentioned this, but really what it's all about is giving your child the best education. How are we doing this? We developed a 5-year strategic plan, a commitment to educational excellence, and we're in year 2. What does it look like? Ultimately, we want your kids to get the best education possible while becoming good people. The targeted results can be achieved through teacher excellence. Teachers who are always learning, teachers who are always researching, teachers who appreciate perspective, which in turn allows the students to do the same thing. To put it simply, the strategic plan is designed to ensure that Greenville maintains an excellent faculty today, tomorrow, and in the future, to deliver a world-class education in academics and character. It's our playbook to make sure that we're all aligned and always pushing ourselves to do better. Our vision unfolds through action steps with teaching, learning, and community categories, and with leadership and operations seen through all of them. There are 41 specific deliverables to achieve over the course of this 5-year plan, and we're tracking well to get them all done. The good news is that it's very thoughtful and vital work that can only benefit the students of the Greenville School today and tomorrow. Now, the reality is, where this work is critical, it's not always flashy. But the focus is just that, the not flashy work. And that's part of what makes this plan so powerful. We are going after each detail to ensure that your child has the best educational experience they can and make them good people. It's the real work that needs to be done, and we're happy to do it. Now, Hari spoke to us about our assets, but there's no bigger asset than our teachers, and we look to invest in them significantly. One way is through the lens of teaching. We look to complete our vision through the clear goals in teaching, learning, and community. Behind me is the goal for teaching. There are 13 deliverables that we have to accomplish in the area over the course of 5 years. When talking about teaching tonight, our focus is on how teachers learn and grow professionally. What you're looking at now are the 5 deliverables we accomplished in the first year. When we designed this, there was a clear message from our teachers. They wanted more time for professional development. We accomplished just that in 1 year. Now, we've got 2 more deliverables that we're working on this year around teacher development and recruitment. Through the course of this presentation, you're going to hear specific stories towards all of this larger work. But let me say this. I have worked at 5 private independent schools for the last 28 years. This is my 8th strategic plan. I've never seen such a engagement on a strategic plan like this. To have every teacher involved in the development of this is something incredible. It represents the brain power, the care, and the strategy of the faculty and staff. A team I'm really proud to lead, and one of the best teams I've ever led. A strength of this faculty is the real love they have for this place and the tremendous amount of experience. At the end of our year closing faculty luncheon, we celebrate years of service at school. Check this out. We have 8 teenagers. Jessica Chen has been teaching at Greenville for 14 years. Jill Damagala, 14 years. Nydia Aguirre Calderon, 16 years. Harvey Bass, 16 years. Kevin Kane, 16 years. Tyler Wood, 16 years. Trish Karsu, 18 years. And Cammie Gallagher, 18 years. We have 13 teachers in their 20s. Maggie Healy, 20 years. Aisha Daly, 23. Megan Endress, 23. Callie Flink, 23. Kathy Ayanada, 23. Melissa Noga, 23. Callie Gillis, 24. Frank Zanone, 25. Louise Linder, 26 years. Anthony Scatino, 26 years. Rick Geismar, 27 years. Karen Ressa, 27 years. And Julie Rooney, 27 years. And 430 and up. Joanne Pappas, 31 years of teaching at Greenville. Janine Murray, 34 years teaching at Greenville. Valerie Field, 39 years of teaching at Greenville. And Carol Rausch, 44 years of teaching at Greenville. Also interesting to note is we've been fortunate to have Greenville alum who loved their experience so much that they chose to come back. Second grade teacher, Brianne DeShaw. First grade teacher, Elizabeth Garlone. Art teacher, Nina Fagioli. And admissions director, Lynn Dixon, are all Greenville alum. Speaking of alum, we have 44 alumni parents at the school right now. Now, let's talk about some specifics we've accomplished around teaching. You may not know this, but when your kids leave at 12:25 on Friday, the faculty stays first for a community lunch together and then meets to do important work all geared towards developing them even further as teachers. This is a picture of a recent meeting that Narinder's running right here in the theater. This is where a lot of the work gets done. What's some of that work? Critical part of a teacher's career is getting feedback. The academic team, the division heads in Narinder, study the importance of peer feedback as a way to enhance teacher excellence as a part of the strategic plan. What did they note? They noted that through peer partnerships, our teachers set goals and actively reflect and evaluate and iterate in their teaching practices. That teachers who practice reflection can more effectively encourage their students to reflect, analyze, and evaluate to improve their own learning. With this, teachers come up with goals with a partner to think about how to improve their practice. For example, one teacher this year, in partnership with another teacher, noted that she wanted to allow more opportunities for her students to make creative decisions. Not something I necessarily always promote at my house. This kind of goal is then supported with the help of a peer who will come visit the classroom. Next, it's supported by the division director who will observe a lesson and think about what kind of professional development may enhance that. Ultimately, this all leads to improved learning for your child because the teacher's being so reflective with somebody else. Now, I want to note that this is the kind of activity that all teachers want. I remember as a middle school English teacher wanting this kind of feedback, but almost every school fails in doing. The fact that we developed this with the teachers through the strategic plan has made it a very effective tool that we're doing this year. Now, this brings us to professional development. What does it actually look like when a teacher experiences authentic professional development? Let's watch.
Greenville is such a special place that there's an abundance of professional development that teachers can partake in every year. For the past 2 years, I've gone to a professional development a 3-day seminar with workshops. And this past year, I went to Missouri for the People of Color Conference. A specific example would be just learning to bring joy back into the classroom and to be your authentic self. And sometimes in the throes of it, in the routine, we kind of forget that you go into the teaching profession because you actually find joy in being able to share your knowledge, share who you are with the children. So it was a great feeling to come back rejuvenated and feeling like I need to be my authentic self and bring joy back into the classroom. And if the children feel your joy, then they will want to learn with joy.
That's teacher Nidia Aguirre-Gardaron, an upper school Spanish teacher who's been here for 16 years, who through authentic professional development feels rejuvenated and remembers that sense of joy, which is a critical component to education here at Greenvale. Nidia, like many of our other colleagues, know and understand what it means to grow through reflection, which ultimately helps your kid. Now we're going to shift over, after we've talked for teaching, one core component of the strategic plan, to learning. We've actually accomplished the most around learning thus far. Learning and teaching really go hand in hand with each other, but our focus on learning tonight is what your children are experiencing in the classroom. With learning, there are 12 deliverables to accomplish over 5 years. We've completed 5 goals in the first year, with 2 others started in year 1, but not going to be completed until the end of year 2. Many of the 5 were referenced in last year's State of the School, which I'm sure you all remember. And all of those changes have been critical and important for your child's education. In the second year, we're going to complete 5 more. Okay, so now let's shift to some of the good work going on around learning. Clearly focusing on how kids learn is critical to our plan. To start, we need to define what are the learning principles of Greenvale. A learning principle is a guidepost for a teacher. In the past, learning principles were simply implied but not articulated. Here's an example of a learning principle the committee is focused on for the school: reflection and metacognition. We want to ensure that all of your kids are getting this in every grade. Let me provide you with an example in the classroom that's happening right now. I'm going to tell you a story about a lesson that is research-based about reading acquisition that's based on salad. In the first grade last year, the teachers all got together to do research on how children read. There's been a lot of new research on what reading acquisition looks like, and they wanted to make sure that they had the best research in front of them to then ensure that they're doing the right lessons when it comes to teaching every child one of the most important skills that they're going to learn, reading. In the past, reading in first grade has really been more about acquisition of language, not a lot about comprehension. From the research they did, they began to realize that they need to bring in comprehension at a much earlier phase than they had in the past. So, the teachers came up with a great lesson. What the teachers did in the first grade was they became the students for the teacher. For all of the children. And what the teachers did is they read in front of the kids the way that the child often has to read in front of the teacher. Now, it ends up that the teacher was a pretty good reader and was able to read all of the language right there. But what they couldn't do is comprehend it. And they got the students to notice that they had zero understanding or memory of the story, which brings in the salad. What is a salad? Well, a salad isn't just lettuce. For our purposes tonight, a salad is lettuce and tomatoes. Lettuce is the ability to say the word. It's a critical skill. You need that acquisition. The tomato is the comprehension. You have to stop and check for comprehension throughout the reading, throughout your own reading. So what the teachers did is they read again, and when the teacher did the good reading, the students would pick up lettuce and put it into the bowl. And then when they stopped for comprehension, they would put tomatoes in it. Now in this picture, they ended up using some cards. I guess the salad was out that day. But they have done it with literal salad as well. This is the kind of connection to research that is critical to showing how your students are benefiting immediately. What the teachers have to say about it. First grade teacher Elizabeth Gerlone said, it makes them more aware of their reading and more active readers. Janine Murray, it's tangible, engaging, visual. So when the students go to practice being metacognitive during their independent reading, which I'm sure all of you do, they visualize their lettuce, the reading, and add in their tomatoes, the thinking. And head of the lower school, Heather Wagner, notes, it makes the reading lesson interactive and engaging and teaches a high-level concept in a way that students completely understand. This is a direct way our strategic plan is helping your kids. Another learning principle is emotional intelligence. We know that a critical part of our focus is character development within the school. We want your child to get an excellent education and be inspired towards the greater good. Before the strategic plan, our character development was kind of assumed. We were very proud of it and could see that kids were being quite good at the end, but we really couldn't point to exactly how we did it. What we did was we researched what we saw as important aspects of character development that we could explicitly teach and make sure everyone would get. So we're going to watch a little video of a lesson around empathy. The first thing you see is you see kids saying mean things to a piece of paper. Then what they're going to do is they're told to crumple up that piece of paper as hard as they can. They're very engaged in the crumpling. After they've crumbled the paper, they have to take the time to try to spread it back out and smooth out the piece of paper to make it perfect. What they come to understand is that the paper can never be perfect again. The lesson for them is that those mean words aren't going to go away. That you have to realize what you're saying, no matter how much you try to smooth it out, is going to have an impact. That kind of lesson, this is a group of sixth graders, is the kind of lesson that happens across the board for our students to make sure that they're thinking about the way that they treat others and thinking about empathy in ways that are important. Another critical aspect of our strategic plan is to maintain and enhance our already strong sense of community. The third pillar. Yes, we're doing all four. What does the next level of connection look like for our community? How well are we connecting with our strong alumni base? How do our students feel that sense of community? In the past, we've simply assumed community would emerge because we all lived kind of near each other. That's not sustainable. So where can we point to new focuses of a community building? When considering community, it's important to note that last year's centennial celebration fully supported building community in excellent ways, but was not a deliverable in our strategic plan. We have a total of 10 ideas to be delivered, of which we've accomplished 1 in the first year. Now, why is that list behind me bigger than 1? The deliverables for community are broader, and so there are a number of smaller actions that all fit within that deliverable. Let's hear about some specifics we've done around building community. Through the strategic plan, we're building a more comprehensive way to connect, where we may have assumed people would just show up, we realized we need to create more opportunities on campus for people to connect. Last year, we had a wonderfully successful alumni softball game. Over 30 men and women came, ranging from classes of the 2023 to the class of 1956. Now, why is it important that we had a softball game on campus? This is an intentional way to build a sense of connection here. It's about having fun so that you can connect. Connecting with this community then allows the alum to feel more connected and want to give back more, which includes having alumni speakers, which then allows our students to connect with the alum and hear about their experiences as adults and what this place has meant to them. Alumni connection can directly help learning for your kids. Community building is that the activities are at the core of students' daily life here. One of these ways that this happened is our beloved buddy system. The buddy system has been around forever. I don't actually know when it started, but I can tell you that I've heard about it for generations. Buddies are a partnership between the upper school and early childhood, where the big buddy and the little buddy spend quality time together, allowing the older student to have a mentoring opportunity and the younger student to have a big kid to look up to. We've done this for a long, long time, but what the strategic plan is doing is making clear why we do it. This year, while trick-or-treating on Halloween, these two buddies ran into each other. Noah's mom was very surprised when her son, a nursery student, went running over to this big kid, an 8th grader, only to learn that it was his buddy. That's an authentic connection. Why is that important? Connection and belonging are drivers for better education. How is this about the strategic plan? We have a much deeper understanding that the tradition of buddies, the ability to connect, the ability to mentor, the ability to look up to somebody is something that is critical to a child's experience. And therefore, all of our focus is on making sure that's what happened so that when the kids see each other out there, they connect again. I can tell you at a personal level, my 7th grade son still talks about who his buddies are and even knows where they go to college. Now, that's kind of the way his brain works. He knows everybody. He is the mayor. But he knows everybody. But it's incredible to hear him still talk about those people in his life. Okay. Last but not least, leadership and operations. Leadership and operations flows through teaching, learning, and community and is really focused on systems work. Like community, the deliverables are broad, but there are many actions that have happened. Here are the 11 actions that occurred, listed behind me, from the one accomplished deliverable that we did last year, which was a changed leadership organizational chart. There are a total of 6 deliverables to be completed over the course of 5 years, with 1 completed in the first year and 2 more to be completed by the end of this year. It's been my task to think about how our systems can better support teaching and learning and how the school should consider, what the school needs to consider to add or subtract in the spirit of that. How do we make sure that our work is always strategic? For example, one of the things that has happened is we recently made our school psychologist a full-time position. And we made sure that that person had the right focus on child well-being and the ability to partner with teachers to support children with their own well-being, and then partner with teachers to help children with their well-being in a way that is a critical support for our students. In the past, it was a part-time job that did not provide that level of detail, but was much more there for moments of crisis. Now, perhaps the most important change that I've made when it comes to leadership is clarifying leadership responsibilities through a new organizational flow chart. As I think about the work of the administration team, The clarity we created is around the different teams or tasks of the administrative work. In the past, it was just administrative work. The senior administrative team would get together and just do it all. Now, we have a clarity of purpose by having delineated teams with work that needs to happen. For example, Narinder Bala's job as the associate head of school means she's in charge of the educational leadership team. With the help of the division head, she oversees all teaching and learning for the school. Everything we've discussed today around teaching and learning is through the guidance of Narinder. My focus is on the senior leadership team, thinking about the policies that team needs to make. And for now, it's the institutional advancement. And then Richard Hurt, our business manager, is in charge of operations. This new model really helps clarify the purpose of our work, which allows us to think more strategically. Now, I'm going to spend a minute to talk about a transition that's happening that connects to the strategic plan and gives me a moment to talk about someone that's important to me. For the last 53 plus years, Richard Hurt has been in the field of education, of which for the last 16, he's been at Greenvale. And with the last 9 with me. What has Richard done in his 16 years at Greenvale? He's maintained the budget perfectly in his tenure. He's professionalized the office. He knows and understands the school policy in relationship to law, and has been a real guide for me and a real friend. Alas, Richard's retiring at the end of this school year. And with Richard's retirement, we're taking the time through the strategic plan to talk about what's going to serve us next. You'll notice that Richard's title is the Director of Finance. That title does not really capture all of the work that he has done. While we looked for a new person, we changed the title to the Director of Finance and Chief Financial Operating Officer, Chief Financial Operating Officer, CFOO, sorry. Been a long day. And believe that work better captures what work Richard's doing and what our new CFOO will be doing. I'm excited to announce that our new CFO will be Teresa Foy, who will start this summer. Teresa comes to us where she is the current CFOO at the Collegiate School in New York City. Before that, she was the CFOO at the Buckley Country Day School. And before that, she was a CFO on the private side for about 15 years. We did an extensive search across the entire country with an outside organization. Of the countless applications that we had, she rose above the best in her ability to connect with the community, to understand the uniqueness of the school environment, and her vast knowledge in policy and human resources. We're very excited to have her start with us in July. So, getting close to the end for me. Teaching's 13 deliverables, plus learning's 12, plus community's 10, and add 6 more from leaderships equals 41 tangible ways that we're ensuring that your child will flourish and get the best academic experience they can while being inspired towards the greater good. We are in year 2, and we've already accomplished a lot. Teaching, creating a culture of continuous growth and reflection is working, and it has a positive impact on your child. Learning, being on the forefront of research, doing what is right for our kids, focusing on the student experience has already led to significant improvements and more consistent experience for your child. Community, seeing our role in building community, making sure to include as many perspectives as possible while always coming back to joyfulness helps your child. Leadership, getting the right systems in place, making sure that behind the scenes everything is sharp and professional helps your child. Now, looking at the horizon, we've accomplished a lot all within the confines of our current budget. We will need financial support to make all of this go to the next level. But that'll be another presentation. So, my goal tonight was to give you some color of the great work that's happening throughout the school and a little flavor of education that's going on. What we're going to end with is a 3-minute student-made video that was shown during our new tradition of Founders Day on January 12th. I want to reiterate, this was produced, written, and filmed by the students. It's a student flavor that perhaps is going to do a much better job of describing everything we're doing in the strategic plan than I just did. So let's watch this video.
Hi, and welcome to the Founders Day video.
We're going to go through some Greenville history and other fun facts, so stay tuned. We have an exciting video coming your way.
Let's open up with some Greenville fun facts.
Did you know that the Greenville boys' locker room used to be in the Nah, I'm just kidding. You already know that.
What I'm sure you don't know, though, is that in 1926, Greenville graduated its first and only 11th grade class.
Also, in 1938, the head of school's house was built for $22,000, and the previous headmaster's house, now the admin building, was converted to a classroom space.
Also, did you know that the logo and motto of GVS were actually created by students?
What do you think is important for Greenville to keep doing in 2024?
I think we should keep doing the Fall Festival because it's fun for kids to experience having Halloween, not just at home, but in school too.
That's a great answer. Why do you think that they should keep this?
Because it's just fun, and I think it's fun for the older kids to meet the younger kids, and it's fun for the younger kids to play all the games.
That's a great answer.
I think it's also good that that all the younger kids get a sense of the tradition that Greenville's had over all the years, and maybe make some changes, like take out some of them, because it's always good to have change, even though we should keep the tradition of the Fall Festival.
So if you had to pick one memory at Greenville to be your favorite, what would that memory be?
It would probably be on Founders Day when there was a whole ice cream buffet. I like that. That was nice.
Nice. Were you there with your friends?
Yeah, I was with my class. It was fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Andreas.
What is your favorite event at GVS?
I like Blue Gold Day because it's festive and fun.
Awesome. What is your favorite lunch at Greenville?
I like the Chinese food back in the days where it was really good.
And what is one word you would use to describe Greenville?
I think it's awesome.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Shay.
And my name is Chris.
And thank you again to our wonderful classmates who introduced the Founders Day video. We just watched some awesome interviews that really capture what makes the Greenville School stand out.
GVS's mission statement is pretty spot on because we've seen students growing in various ways and developing a solid sense of community.
One thing that sticks with us is a saying found in our mission statement: every child is known.
It's not just words, it's really true. Here at Greenville, you're not just another student. You're known and appreciated for who you are.
Those interviews gave us a glimpse into the friendships, learning, and all-around growth happening here.
The Greenville School strives to make their students smarter, better people, not just in class, but in life.
It's more than just a school. It's like a big, welcoming family,
where everyone isn't just taught, but known, and your ideas matter.
Big thanks to all the students who shared their stories with us.
And a special shout out to Greenville because today is the school's 101st birthday.
Thanks for watching and being a part of this place where every child watching this right now is known.
Happy birthday and happy Founders Day, Greenville.
Happy birthday, Greenville!
You can clap. That's worth a clap. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that we did not pay them to say that at the end. But to think about the fact that our kids see that we have a sharp mission, that our kids know that there's something real about being known here, that it's about friendship, learning, and all-around growth, that we're making them smarter kids all around, and that we're one big family. You couldn't ask for a better message to come from a kid. It tells us that the work we're doing is the right work, and it makes it our privilege to think about how we can do that work even more. So thank you for coming, and we're going to change to see if you have any questions for us. Questions?
Is the plan actually published?
The plan is published and actually soon to be launched. Sorry, the question that I'm repeating so that everybody else online will hear it later is the plan actually published? And so the answer is yes. First off, our strategic plan is on one page. It's the mission, vision, and value. The mission, values, and vision of the school. Everything is about the very short vision. Everything I've described tonight is the playbook towards that vision. That playbook will soon to be released on a new part of the website that will be coming in the next couple of days, so that you can see all of the deliverables and where they are. It's a very good question. You can ask them questions too.
I was just wondering if there are funding implications of costs in some other area gone down, enabling additional spending on teachers or things moved around in the budget, or maybe an REF.
Yeah, so the question was, as we're thinking about the funding of the school, have costs gone down in other places that has allowed for us to shift some of the assets we've had to pay for it? And the answer is yes. Really, starting with Jeff, right before COVID, Jeff, Richard, and I and the finance committee made 7 different budgets for COVID, and none of them were right. It was the 8th one after the fact that ended up being the right one. And one of the things that we did was we really tightened up around and focused on where all spending was and making sure that it was appropriate and strategic. And that actually allowed us to be able to really think, especially about monies towards professional development, which we were able to increase because we noticed that we were putting a lot of money in budgets over here for certain things that we weren't spending. So let's move that over to this budget line. And so again, we've been able to accomplish all that we want within the budget lines that we currently have. As we think about the future and the sustainability of it, we're seeing that we're going to need larger budget lines in certain areas to be able to maintain this and grow it.
And I think the nature of this strategic plan is that a lot of the expenditure does take the form of kind of recurring annual expenditures that need to be part of the operating budget. How much room we have in the operating budget is a function of the size of the endowment. And the point I was trying to make in my remarks was that where we are now with the endowment covers our operations, does give some capacity for the implementation work that Jesse's described and that's already going on, but is limiting in our ability to make some of the bigger investments around this strategic plan. And that will require kind of a step function increase in the size of the endowment. And that's something that we're thinking through.
Yes?
What's your vision for financial aid over the next 5 years or so?
It's a good question. So the question was, what is our vision on financial aid? And that is absolutely an area that actually over the course of the last 9 years that I've been here has increased significantly. I can't give you an exact percentage, but it's increased significantly. And we are in the midst of significant board conversation with the administration around how we can grow it more. Now, growing budget around financial aid isn't enough when it comes to financial aid. We also have to make sure that we have all the systems in place to ensure that we give it out appropriately and that people are aware of it and that we're bringing in people, new people who may benefit from it. So we absolutely intend to grow it. We're figuring out by how much and the steps that we need to take to be able to do that. Does that answer?
Yeah.
No. Good.
Well, do you want to ask a follow-up?
Well, no, I'm just curious if you had specific, you mentioned, and when you brought the numbers up, you said, a good portion of that is reimbursing teachers. I'm just sort of curious and take that out, what does the financial aid picture look like at Greenville? And do you have specific targets down the road for how you'd like to
Yeah, look, I think our intention is to continue to really grow the financial aid budget. I mean, I think actually the last two questions are touching on, I think, really important considerations for how our school operates. We raise our revenue through tuition. And look, we don't raise tuition every year to inflict pain upon our families, although it feels like that. We do that because we need to maintain competitive salaries and compensation and benefits for our faculty. And we need to continue to grow in areas like financial aid. So that's how the model works today, and we're somewhat limited. Our ability to increase something like financial aid is somewhat limited by our ability to keep growing tuition, because that is the main funding source for aid and our main expenses. So I think over time, what we'd like to do is actually create more permanent funding through the endowment for things like financial aid, or even teacher salaries and benefits. And to the extent that we can actually take some of those things out of the operating budget and have them permanently funded through the endowment, that creates, I think, a lot of opportunity for growth.
And look, the reality is that the math is relatively simple, right? Where our endowment is today, we can assume that we're going to earn maybe over the long run 5% on that. We are drawing, in good years, we're drawing kind of 2 to 3%. Enrollment does fluctuate, so there are years where we may have to draw 5%. That doesn't leave a lot of room for significant line item increases in the operational budget. And financial aid is one of those areas. And financial aid, obviously, as Lynn will talk about, it's not just a function of making the resources available, it's also the outreach and the integration and all of that work that needs to be put into expanding a financial aid program. It's not just increasing the actual aid that's dispensed to incoming families.
Stephanie.
A slightly lighter note here. You mentioned that website traffic had gone up 100%. That's sort of a fascinating thing, and also tied into, are we reaching a bigger demographic, or is that just using the website as a resource for current parents and alumni? Do you know?
Yeah. So
we had a question about what we have learned through the website and demographics that Jeff's going to jump into.
Yeah, sure. So look, I mean, our actually tracking and our analytics actually show that we are having a broader reach. It's not just the same people going on more frequently. We actually track where the traffic is coming from, and not surprisingly, all of the external data shows that increasingly people are finding out about schools through online search and through review portals, actually. And so that's a place where we've actually increased our presence. Niche is one of the ones Niche is one of the school review sites where we have a presence, and prospective families go on and they read about the school, and then they ultimately will click through to our website to learn more. So that's been a nice actual source of traffic to our website. So we're tracking where people are coming from, and we've seen a lot more visitors, which is great. Also, I didn't talk about it, Lindsay actually writes a blog. And the reason she writes a blog is, of course, it's interesting and there's a lot of insights to share. But we've also found that having some of the content from the blog attracts search results from Google. Right? So when you have changing content on your website that's frequently updated, and that's going to attract more search results and more clicks and more eyeballs. So we're doing all those things.
Yes.
I was curious about the teachers. Like, how do you decide which teachers get to further their education each year or attend seminars? Like, do they apply or do they take turns?
So good question. Question around what does the professional development look like for teachers? How do we decide? We have a sizable budget around professional development that actually has two categories. One is professional workshops that teachers can apply for, and I'll explain that in a second. And the other is actually for graduate level courses, and we'll pay for 2 graduate level courses for in one academic year for a teacher. And thus far, we've been able to fund all of the graduate level courses that we've been asked for because of the budget. Now, and we've really been able to send every request for different conferences, send people to every conference that they want to go to with our current budget. However, we actually want to make it a requirement that every teacher have professional development and spend a certain amount of dollars every year within that, and so that we know everyone every year is doing that. We can't afford to do that right now. So we would have to make some shifts to be able to make that happen. Yes?
You guys mentioned that the current student base is at 450 and that is established as max enrollment. How did you guys arrive at that number, and is it the intent to maintain that number, say, over the next 5 years? Give us some color and thought process into that.
Yeah, so a question around how we understand full enrollment and what does it mean 450 is fully enrolled. And it's actually, it's more nuanced than you first think. We are fully enrolled, but we could have taken a bunch of 8th graders this year. We don't get a lot of 8th graders. That's we have a particularly small 8th grade. So there's always fluctuates a little bit. Last year, we were 465. That was with the largest 8th grade in a very long time at the school. And so when they graduated, because all of the other classes were full, we fully knew that we would have a little bit of dip, but still be fully enrolled. So anticipate a little bit of a bump up next year. For kind of the easiest way to understand this is we essentially think about 3 sections per grade that are full. Now, for some of you, you're like, wait a sec, my child has 4 sections in the class. Part of that comes by virtue of some of the work, some of what we saw from COVID, where we needed to actually have our class size be a little bit smaller to connect and teach more for the students. And we found that we needed to keep that for a little bit longer than we thought. So essentially, 3 is the model, 3 sections of roughly a class between 14 to 16 kids in each class is the norm at Greenvale and what we strive for. And so minus, I think, just a couple of grades, that's where we are. There's always a little bit of space where we, might be able to have a few kids here, might be able to have a few kids there. But really, since COVID, there's a lot less room in the middle than there used to be, where somebody could come in and know automatically that there would be a spot in 3rd grade. That just doesn't happen in the same kind of way that it would. And so, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, is the intent to sort of maintain that?
That's the intent, to maintain that, yeah. And the way that I've described the school to many is a really big, small school. And so we're kind of at the largest end of small that you can be, and that's exactly where we want to be.
And I think maybe if I can add to that, we want to be sure that we're never chasing an enrollment number for financial and budgetary reasons, right? We want the leadership of the school to be able to kind of build the community through admissions that kind of makes sense for us and allows the school to engage with students and families, leverage the campus in the right way. So again, one of the elements of the strategic plan is also looking at our financial model and how it interacts with the endowment. I think we've never been in the position where we've had to make admission or community building decisions around budgetary considerations, but we want to make sure that that's never the case and that range of enrollment outcomes that we can accommodate based on kind of academic, community, curricular decisioning is as wide as possible. And so that's one of the components of the financial planning as well.
One of the things that both Jeff and Hari and I have kind of insinuated is that we're always looking to be better. We may have full enrollment, but we don't assume that we will. So we're always thinking about what we need to do next, because every year it can be different, and we want to, come January of the academic year, we're really focused significantly on the next year on the administrative side, and preparing budgets, doing all the things that we need to do to think about it, and that works very intentional to keep the size the way we want it and be able to, maintain what we have. Yes, Jeff.
As it relates to the sort of deficit that you spoke to of the operating budget versus the income from the student payments that come in through tuition, what is the per student gap as people think about what their contribution should be for the annual fund?
$1 million. No, sorry. Well, just kidding.
I think the right. First of all, if we think about the annual fund, $1 million across the community, that's a number that we do kind of need to consistently hit in order for this model to work. I'm not sure on a per student basis that is, but that's
it's
what
fluctuated
and the
year over
average,
year, but it's usually around between $6,000 to $7,000, between $6,000 per child. That is the gap. And just to be clear, all academic institutions operate in the United States operate this way.
Yeah.
This is the norm. Like we're not intentionally creating a deficit budget. We are intentionally doing that because that's the way schools have always, done their budgets as a way to, cover some of the costs and then.
And there's an efficiency to that, right? Because by allowing structurally the annual fund to plug a per student deficit, to your point, that there are two things there, right? One is it allows families that are capable of giving more money to do that and kind of voluntarily, effectively increase their tuition to help those who cannot. And it's also very tax efficient because those contributions are tax deductible. So there is some logic to having a structure that relies on an annual fund, which is why we don't think of the annual fund as contributions to the endowment. We think of the annual fund as part of the annual operating budget and kind of another source of per student tuition-like revenues. Just self-selected.
Maybe one more question? Nothing?
Or not.
Well, look, thank you all, first of all, for coming tonight. Appreciate the great questions and the level of engagement. And thank you, Hari, and thank you, Jeff, for all of your help around this and your great wisdom. I want to also make sure to thank Theo, who's in the back and changing all the slides for us, and the tremendous work that she did to help put all of this together. Hopefully tonight you're leaving with a better sense of what happens at Greenvale. And if nothing else, know that you have an incredibly engaged faculty and an incredibly engaged administration who only wants to think about the best ways to help your child. Have a great night.